Great. Okay, welcome everybody. So this class is going to be pretty short and smooth and sweet because you know this stuff. There's no rocket science here, but what it's designed for is fill in whatever blanks you might have around the first-time buyer process. But more importantly, I want you to keep in mind that this is a class that we can put out together. So if you have clients or prospects that you want to gather around to present this with me, let's do this together. So let's move forward. So first of all, not everybody is ready to buy a house. And the ones who should be considering staying renting are the ones who have very short-term needs. So they either have, they're going to school, they're going through a divorce and working out negotiations, or they're not ready to settle for whatever reason, or they're in a lot of debt and they have no savings whatsoever. You'll see that on that note, I put a little asterisk, and the reason is because it's never too soon to plan. And if somebody wants to get a game plan together on how to get out of debt and what kind of savings they're going to need to get into a home, we can definitely talk to them about that. So they should be speaking to their lender in the early stages. So how long do you plan to pay someone else's mortgage is what a renter should be asking themselves, because even in the lower end situation, if their rent is $2,500 a month, in 3 years, they will have basically thrown away $90,000 on rent. In 10 years, $300,000 in rent. And this could be equity that you're building up for your own home and your own equity. So notice here that there's a flyer available. I've got a bunch of flyers for first-time home buyers that I'd be happy to send your way. All I need you to do is put your name in the chat, and I'll shoot that out to you. Oops, went too fast. Sorry about that. Hold on. Okay. So what you should be thinking about, what are the whys behind buying? Why would you want to buy a house? Because there's no other better way to build equity and to build your net worth. Anybody who is the most wealthy people in the planet build their wealth from mostly real estate as opposed to stock market. Stock market's usually part of the deal, but real estate is really where you're going to get the big bang for your buck. Other reasons to buy are you want to make your home your own. You want to do your own things, make your own rules, and maybe you have animals, kids, or stuff. You don't want to be beholden to somebody else and not be able to put a hole in the wall without worrying about what it's going to cost you. You want to have your own place. And by now, anybody who's sitting in this seminar should be asking the question, or should be thinking to themselves, you had me at hello, where do I start? Because that's why you're here. So let's tell you how to start. Okay, so first thing that a buyer should be asking is, are they even in a financial position to buy? So the big 4 questions that we're going to look at in terms of qualifying them for a mortgage is their assets. And that means their down payment and their closing costs. That doesn't mean their guitars and their artwork and things like that. It's anything that they can turn into money and put down. And that also doesn't include cash under the mattress, because we can't use cash under the mattress. We have to have seasoning. So they need 2 months of bank statements. So if they're a cash under the mattress type of person, they might want to put it in the bank. We look at your credit. We look at your income, and we need a 2-year history of income. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have 2 years on the same job, but you should have 2 years in a related line of work. If you are self-employed, you need 2 years of self-employment for sure, because you can go from self-employed to salaried and have a brand new job, and that's no problem, but you can't go from salaried to self-employed without being 2 years self-employed before we can use that income. And then of course, we're going to look at your debts and liabilities. So we want to make sure that you have good credit and that will pull your credit report to get information about your debts. So in terms of assets, question, do you have adequate savings? Well, first we have to ask how much is needed for a down payment. There's a variety of options here. So you can see that you can do 0 down with a VA loan. Those are the best loans in the world. So you should always try to find out if somebody's got military background, and then we can try to put them into a VA loan. One thing I learned after I put this slide together is we also have a 1% down loan, but I believe it's in restricted areas. But regardless, as long as it's a conforming loan, we can do 3% down for first-time home buyers. And conforming loan limit in LA is 647,200. It might be lower in other counties, just keep that in mind. An FHA will allow you to do 3.5% down. And that's got also has to be within the conforming loan limits. And then a high bail loan, which is anything over 647, and not quite a jumbo, which is 970, I should have put that on here as well, is 5% down. The gold standard for down payments is 20%. So if you have 20% down, you're not, there will be no mortgage insurance that'll be required. You'll get the best pricing. But as you can see, when you're a first-time home buyer, the best pricing isn't necessarily what you're going to be shooting for. You're going to be mostly concerned with just get me in the door, and these loans will definitely get you in the door. This is a flyer that is available for down payment options for first-time home buyers, which again, I've got a bunch of flyers. I'll send you all of them if you put your name in the chat and ask me to do so. And then there's also this one on closing costs. This one, I feel like they buried the lead a little bit, but in terms of closing costs, the number that you should really pay attention to is this 1 to 2% of the purchase price is going to give you a really good general idea of closing costs. And, you know, for me, when I'm just doing some down and dirty number crunching, I feel like for I don't know, a $500,000 to $700,000 home, I know right off the top of my head that that's going to be about 10 grand in closing costs. If you're talking jumbos, it could be considerably higher. If you're talking, you know, a condo for 350,000, it's going to be lower, but, you know, certainly around 10 grand-ish is what's going to be your whole closing costs. One thing I've noticed, because closing costs include these various categories of fees. There's origination fees, which is basically the lender fee. Service charges are usually taxes, escrow, et cetera. And then escrow items, escrow and title items are separate. A lot of times I've run across in my experience where I have had clients get my estimate and say, your closing costs are high. Well, there's no such thing on a purchase. Closing costs are going to be the same across lenders because they're mostly title and escrow fees, and the title and escrow is chosen by the seller. So the only thing that's going to be even remotely different is the lender fee. And just to give you a sense, ours is a flat $1,650. And it's very much in line and actually lower than many lenders out there. So that's really the only number that clients would have to use to compare between lenders. They should be looking at the terms, the rate and terms on the loan much more closely than they look at the closing costs. If my closing costs look higher than other lenders, it just means that I'm being more honest about what they can expect when it comes to closing. What about reserves? Well, this is something that people should know about because they're sometimes needed. They may not be, and in many conforming loan size purchases, they're not. But when they are, it's usually in the form of PITIA. So anywhere from 3 to 12 months of principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and homeowners association. So basically they take the entire housing expense. Let's just say it's, I don't know, $2,000, just to pick an easy number. And let's say you needed 6 months of reserves. That would be 6 times 2. So that means you need $12,000 in reserves in addition to your closing costs. And that just means it's money set aside that is available should you need it. It's not going to be touched. It could be in an IRA account, even if you're young, it doesn't matter. But what I've found is that it's very helpful if somebody does have, say, for example, a large retirement account, even if reserves aren't needed or they don't plan on using that for their application, they should put it into an account, or they should show it on their application, because it adds strength to the file. And a lot of times we can get away with a lower debt ratio if we know that they have assets, even if they're not planning to use them. I'm going to take a quick pause because I want to just say that you are welcome at any point to unmute yourself and ask questions. So any questions up to this point before I go further?
I just had a quick question. You said that if they have a large retirement account, that would help out with the debt to loan ratio.
It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't help with their debt ratio, but indirectly it helps with their debt ratio. And what I mean by that is that if they show that they have no assets other than closing costs, they're going to spend every last dime to get into this house and have no reserves, then Fannie and Freddie are probably going to say, we want your debt ratio closer to 43, when normally they'll let me go all the way up to almost 50% on a normal situation, but they won't if they don't have any reserves. So that's why I want to use reserves if and when they're available. And in the case of like a first-time home buyer who maybe doesn't have any reserves, it would not at all hurt if they have a parent, let's say, who's got some money that can put them on an account in preparation for buying a house. And then, obviously, restrict the account or change it later if they need to. Okay, if you just simply don't have enough money to buy a house, what are your options? Well, most loans will allow for gift funds. So if there is a family member that, for example, that would be able to throw in some money to help them out, fantastic. If they have a 401k, most 401ks let you borrow against it. The other thing they could do is get a cosigner. I don't know why I didn't put that one in there, but cosigners are welcome. It should be somebody who can add income and not, hopefully not have a ton of debt. Or if they still don't have enough, then they can start saving. And if they've gone to me at this point and gotten a pre-approval, and I've told them that they need approximately $89,000 for cash to close, and they only have 50. Well, now they know exactly what their budget is. So they know that they have to save up for the difference. I work with clients at all stages of the planning process. If they're just at I'm thinking about it and I want to get a rough idea. I mean, I've got one right now waiting for me to review them that doesn't even want me to pull their credit. They said, I don't have any debts. All I have is this car payment, and that's it. Can you not pay? Can you just have a look and let me know what you think my chances are of being able to get approved? And I'm happy to do that. Next, we look at their credit. And generally speaking, we need a credit score of 660 or better. It's got an asterisk on there, which means that that's not a hard and fast rule, but it is a good general guideline. And if somebody's got a credit score that's lower than that, it's definitely a good idea for us to go ahead and pull the credit, find out what the score is, and see if we have a rescore opportunity and can help them improve that. Ideally, there should be no late pays within the last 12 months. Again, not a hard and fast rule. If in order to get their credit score at an ideal rate, utilization is probably the number one thing that drives credit scores, in my opinion. And if they can keep their utilization below 30%, that means that if you've got a credit line of, say, $10,000, you would want to keep your balances under $3,000. So that would keep you at a 30% utilization score. And if you're just not sure, or you want to look, absolutely everybody is entitled to pull their credit report once a year without any cost or anything. And it's annualcreditreport.com. And I highly recommend that you do that regardless of whether you're saving for a house, because it's a good way to keep track of whatever mishaps happen, and they do all the time. So I would pick a date that you're going to remember, like your birthday or a holiday or something. And every year at that time, just pull your credit report, check it to make sure there's no errors, no duplications, or anything like that, and then clean it up. It's super, super easy to do disputes on those annualcreditreport.com report. It's a click of a button and it works. It works fast and easy. Another method that I've heard about, haven't personally tried, is Experian Boost, but I believe that that works exactly like our rescores do that we have to pay for when we pull people's credit. It basically gives you some ideas on things that you can do to bump your score up. And that's something that anybody can use. And then a couple other little tricks of the trade I wanted to throw in there is authorized signer accounts. They can be great and they could be problematic. So let's talk about the great first. When my kids were getting ready to need to buy cars and things like that, I secretly put them on as authorized signers on some of my credit cards. And that when they went into the car dealer and started looking at cars, they're like, Mom, my credit score is 800. I don't know how I got that. And it really kind of bothered me because it was better than my score. But I knew exactly why, because I helped them to get that. Where it can be a problem is a lot of times when I do rescores, it'll tell me to, it'll tell the client that they should delete their authorized signer account. And so if the person that they're on an authorized signer account with has either used up their balance to the hilt, so now it's got a high utilization, or maybe they were late or something along those lines, it's not helping your credit, it's hurting your credit. So just keep an eye on those authorized signer accounts. They can be very good or they can be problematic. And then I would also tell your clients and prospects, do not let anyone run your credit just to give you a quote. There's so many do-it-yourself websites where they tell you, do you want a quote for a rate? And then they put you through these question and answer things. The next thing you know, they're running your credit. That's a ripoff. It's not necessary. Even if you have no idea what your credit score is, we can just guess. I mean, I can give somebody a quote with just a guess. And obviously, they can't hold me to that until I run their credit, but it gives them an idea of what the rates are. The credit report, we use this to calculate the debt to income ratio. So the credit report's going to tell me what all of your monthly expenses are, and we'll use whatever it says in that report. So if your minimum payment is $100, but you've been paying $1,000, we're going to use the 100. And as far as your income goes, we always use the gross income. So a lot of people only know their net income because that's what they see in their check every month, but we take the gross number and it's important. The maximum debt ratio on most loan products is 49%. And student loans, everybody's on deferment right now. And a lot of people made the mistake of thinking that they don't count because there's no payment being made, but they will always count. And usually I'll ask people to provide me with what is their monthly payment normally, because if they don't give me that, then we have to apply a formula And it's usually a 0.5 to 1% of the outstanding balance, and that payment is usually higher. So I always want to use the lowest number possible when I'm looking at your debts. And then I already mentioned about pulling your own credits and cleaning it up. Any questions, comments so far? Okay. So I'm pre-approved. Now what? If you don't already have one, I want to get them referred to a great real estate agent. And they should show the real estate agent their budget, which is their pre-approval letter. I always like to include a FICO score or snapshot with that. And as appropriate, I might also include the DU, which is our desktop underwriter approval, proving that they are eligible for the loan. They're going to want to discuss the attributes that they're looking for with their agent. And this is definitely the part of the program where you guys would jump in and be able to take over and start talking. And some of your talking points might be these things. What are you going to learn from the agent in your consultation? Well, the agent's going to talk to you about offer strategies. What's the best way? What are some of the tricks and tactics that we can use to try to get your offer accepted? I want to touch on a couple of those right now, the ones that I'm seeing most often. Well, first of all, without question, you should be having the pre-approval lender talk to the listing agent. So, give me, for example, a heads up and saying, I just put in an offer for the Joneses on 123 Main Street. Can you call the agent? Here's their info. And I'm going to call the agent and I'm going to highlight all of the great things about this client. Now, it may or may not work, but surely if they have 10 offers and I'm the only one who called and made the client sound great, they're going to take that seriously. Some of the other offer strategies that I've been seeing out there is shortening the contingency periods or removing the contingencies. Not my favorite because I'm a lender. So, but that said, I'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that we get the offer accepted and get a deal in play. So if we need to do that, for sure. And I'll also be able to tell you if this is a client that's iffy, and we definitely don't want to do that. Other offers, contingents or strategies rather, are if it's somebody who's not a first-time home buyer and they have a home, how can we present this offer in such a way that they don't have to sell their current home? They can do it after the fact. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Other things that you'll probably want to hit on in your agent consultation is the inspection contingencies. You're going to want to talk to your client about when that occurs, what happens during those contingencies, how to read the report, other ways that they can back out of the deal, such as the appraisal contingency and the loan contingency, the earnest money deposit, how much they should expect to be able to put down and what that means in terms of the transaction when they become actually at risk of potentially losing it. The purchase contract itself, you're probably going to want to talk through some of the main components of it. You might want to look at comps in areas where they're considering putting in offers, and definitely talk to them, have the inventory conversation with them, because I think more and more people are starting to understand that the market is really super aggressive right now. But in case you have somebody who thinks that they can hem and haw and try to, discuss it with the spouse and, we'll let you know in a day or two, we're thinking about it, or any of that kind of stuff, forget about it. Those people don't stand a chance, as you know. They have to be able to look at a picture and say, yeah, I want that. This slide I put in here, it feels kind of, out of place, but there wasn't really an appropriate place to put it. But I think it's important to discuss, especially with first-time home buyers, the difference between a condo and a house. So a condo, a lot of people think that that's all they're going to be able to qualify for because they tend to be lower priced, which may or may not be true. The offsetting negative is the HOA. We have to include the HOA in their debt ratio. So if they are qualifying for, I don't know, a 350 purchase, and that's like the very edge of their debt ratio, and then they come back and they say, now it's a condo and the HOA is $200, that completely throws off our debt ratio. And now I have to change that 350 to a 300. So it's very important. The condo itself has to be approved by the lender, and FHA and VA have their own approval process. And, needless to say, there are rules when it comes to condos. So you guys will want to guide them through what kinds of rules might apply to the condo that they might be interested in. And then I kind of touched on it a minute ago. I would probably end this presentation with our clients with today's market environment. They have to be active and they have to be aggressive. It's a little discouraging at first, but if they're not in the game, they're never going to be able to play. And once they get into a home, it's much easier to get into a better home down the road. So they really need to be flexible right now. I strongly recommend, no matter who it is, that they don't look for the dream home on their first home. They look for a home that they can get into. And then when they're ready, they can move up into something better. We want to make sure the lender and the agent are working together to make their offer competitive. We want to tell them not to get too emotionally invested, but don't give up and be ready to pounce as soon as the home that they love comes on the market. I know so many people who have called me to talk to me about getting pre-qualified, and I've sent them the information and the application and loan docs needed. And then I wait and wait and wait, and I follow up, and I don't hear from them. And inevitably, I get that phone call saying, I found this house, it's perfect. I want to make an offer on it today. I need my pre-approval. Oh, it takes more than a minute to do a pre-approval. So really starting the sooner the better is the way to go. And I don't run people's credit, just so you know, just for the fun of running credit. I know that pre-approvals only last so long, generally speaking, about 3 months, and it's just because the documents in the file age. But if somebody takes longer than 3 months to find a place, I've had people who take 6, 9, a year sometimes to find a place. I won't rerun their credit unless something has significantly changed. So I'll save that for when we're actually in escrow. Recap. What's the game plan? So starting today, if you're thinking about buying, clean up your credit. Do not take on any new debt. Save as much money as possible and start working with a lender who helps people in the planning process. Then get pre-approved, meet with a realtor, and start shopping. So this is so doable. Dare to dream and take the first step. And here is presented by me, and fill in your name and information here. What questions do you guys have? Okay, so I see that I got a bunch of people who put their names in the chat box. I'm going to capture that today. And then when I'm done, Paul entered. Paul, you just missed the whole thing, sorry. But it is being recorded, so please listen to the recording. And anybody who is listening to the recording and unable to put their name in the chat box, please just email me. And here's my information, obviously. And I will send you the presentation that you can use on social media or hand out to your prospective clients, and all the flyers that I have for first-time home buyers. And on that note, I'll ask again if there are any questions. Going once, going twice. I hope you guys found this information helpful. appreciate you being here, and call me anytime if you have any scenarios or questions. And please introduce me to your prospects for pre-approvals. Best way to do that is to send a group email or text to me and the prospect and saying, hey, Cindy, Joe, I want to introduce you guys. Cindy, Joe is a first-time home buyer. Can you please help him with the pre-approval? And then I will take it from there. If you're doing it by text, please give me also their email address. If you're doing it by email, please give it to me give me their phone number, and I will always keep you posted of where we are in the process. A lot of times on pre-approvals, I will send the information and ask for documents, and I won't hear back. I will always follow up with them once or twice. And then I would like to circle back to you and say, hey, you're up. Let's tag team on the follow-ups here. So that's all I got. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon.